Hey there, this is the Small Fish, Big Podcast, a show for the gallus few who dream and do. If you're a small biz owner, a creative freelancer, or someone dreaming about leaving your 9-to-5, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll chat with an inspiring guest who will share their entrepreneurship story before we delve into a discussion about running a creative business. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, welcome to episode 22 of the Small Fish, Big Podcast. I am your host, Rhiannon Loudon, but I am not playing host the way I normally do today. Instead, I am joining forces with the fabulous Abby Wallace of the Mind Yer Business Podcast. Abby hosts my favorite small biz podcast, and we were having a chat about a fun way to end off the year and thought rather than do our sort of normal traditional interview a guest episode, instead we would come together and sort of interview each other a little bit in an informal chat. So today we are going to talk all about 2020 and its effect on small businesses, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We do go into a short little rant about capitalism and Amazon and other such things like that. But other than that little bit of doom and gloom, there is lots of inspiration here, lots of honest chat about the challenges that we overcame, that we saw our clients overcome, other small businesses around us. And I think the more that we chatted about this stuff, the more we realized that we've all learned a lot in 2020. And while it has certainly not been an easy year, there are some real positives that can be taken out of it. So it's a great episode to listen into for some honest business chat and a little bit of positive perspective going forwards into 2021. So I'll just very quickly introduce myself and Abby for anybody who's listening in for the first time today or doesn't know who we are. So if you don't know me already, my name is Rhiannon. I am a photographer. I do brand and product photography, brand strategy, and content strategy as well under Small Fish Photo Co., soon to be renamed Small Fish Brand Co. You can watch for that in the new year, little teaser there. I come from a marketing and communications background. I did a degree in journalism and brand storytelling is what I'm all about. Abby is a fabulous graphic designer. She runs her own business called Abby Wallace Designs, and when she is not busy doing that design work, she is running the Mind Your Business podcast, which I mentioned before. If you have not already listened to Abby's podcast, you should definitely check it out. You have lots of catching up to do, and she has tons of inspiring guests on there. Pretty much all female founders who share the story of how they got to where they are today. So now that you know a bit about us and a bit about what's happening today, without further ado, here is episode 22.
So, hi Rhiannon, how are you?
Hey Abby, long time no chat.
Oh my God, I know, I feel like we're so overdue a catch up, it's like crazy.
Well, it's so funny because I think the first time we met, you interviewed me for your podcast, and that was, I don't even know when that was. It was before lockdown because I remember meeting you in person at a cafe.
Yeah, oh my God, when, what, like the end of 2019 maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Was that this year? No, it can't have been this year.
No, it must have been like either the end of 2019 or the beginning of 2020, because then we met again when I came to yours for photos, and that was right before lockdown. Yours was the last kind of brand session that I did before lockdown hit.
Yeah, because I remember we were like, can we do this? Are we going to make it? And then we got it done, and then like the next week it was like lockdown. It's so crazy. But yeah, so today, I don't even know how we're going to do this, but we're just going to kind of chat about this year, because how crazy has it been? It's like, it's been mad.
I know it's not totally unprecedented. I know there have been other sort of pandemics and Spanish flus and all kinds of things, but I mean, for us anyways, in our lifetime, it's definitely unprecedented. And I think even the circumstances like with technology and things like that, this is the first time that we're all navigating a pandemic in this time period. So yeah, crazy would be an accurate word. Chaotic maybe as well.
Yeah, I know, we all thought this was going to be the best year ever, didn't we? Remember at the end of last year, we were like, 2020, best year ever. And then we got, 2 months, and then it was done.
But we're here. What is this? So
Yes.
Is this month? I'm always trying to figure out how long we've been dealing with this. So from March, I guess we're like month 9 or going into month 9. Does that sound about right?
I think so. Yeah, it was at the end of March. So yeah, probably. That's like almost a whole year. That's so bad that we've been stuck in this.
I almost forget too, like what it was like before this happened now, like in terms of, I don't know, like I'm so used now to like podcast interviews over Zoom. I'm used to like networking meetings over Zoom, client meetings, like it's just everything's totally changed. You hardly see anybody in person.
I know, even thinking about that, like first time we met when I came out to Glasgow and we went to the coffee shop and it was like so nice, and like it just seems so alien now to be able to do that.
I actually picked up a coffee from the same coffee shop, Willow Grove, that I talk about all the time. And before our call, I ran in between my last call and this one to get a coffee. So yeah, definitely different than last time. They don't, everything's obviously takeaway, and there's nowhere to sit in, and they've kind of had to rejig everything. So everything is different, and I think obviously we don't know how much longer it's going to be different for, but I wonder how weird it will feel when things start going back to the way they were, if they ever do.
I know, because it became normal so quickly, didn't it? Like now it's just automatic, like you grab your mask when you go outside to the shop, and like you do everything on Zoom, like you don't even think about meeting people. It got so normal so quickly.
I know, and it's just so hard to know, like, I think a lot of people are struggling a little bit with how to plan for the future right now. So I'm not one for planning anyways. Like, I'm not much of a planner. I'm very much like a leap before you look type person. So, I mean, I guess in that regard, it hasn't been as hard on me as people who are like proper planners and have like, next week and next month and 3 months and 6 months and all that stuff laid out. But it's hard to know what's going to happen next year. And you hear people predicting like, oh, January, February will be bad and then it'll get back to normal, or people saying like, oh, by summer most people have the vaccine, then it'll be normal. But actually none of us really know, or how our industries will continue being affected, or what's going to happen.
I know, it's scary. So where are you at the moment with your business? How are things going for you, like business wise?
So mine has really pivoted. Before lockdown, I would say like 80% of my week was out like doing shoots, or at least like planning shoots with people and then coming back and editing. Now that's like maybe 20% of my week. And now I'm focusing a lot more on the behind the scenes, a lot more like strategy and helping people with content strategy and planning and things like that. Starting this podcast. You've been podcasting for way longer than me, but I guess I feel like the scope of my work has changed a lot, and there's a lot more of like the behind the scenes solo stuff, or collaboratively, things being done over Zoom rather than like face-to-face actual work. But it's also introduced me to some different kinds of work. So before I was really focusing on brand photography, as in like I meet you and do more personal brand photos. But because of lockdown, I've started doing a lot more product photography. And to be honest, I wasn't sure if I would like it, because I get my energy off other people. And I was a bit like, well, what's it going to be like me in my own flat, with a backdrop and like a bag of whatever I'm shooting. But it's actually been kind of fun. I've been able to get quite creative with it, and it's diversified what I do. And as a person who gets bored easily, I think that's not such a bad thing.
No, that's so cool that you found like other ways. Like I liked when you done the doorstep photo shoots as well, like just to give you some kind of like photography, because your photography stuff just had to stop, didn't it? So getting out again.
Yeah, it's like finding a way to still be creative. And I ended up doing a lot of photography at home, like just photographing like my daughter, who's, well, now she's 3.5, but she was, not even 3 when the lockdown started. So I had her at home full time, and I was used to her being in nursery almost full time. So that was a big change, and just kind of playing around with like documenting everyday life, which is something that I've always enjoyed, but I didn't do enough of when I was busy. It's kind of like when you do something for your job, you don't do it as much for yourself personally, which is too bad, because I started doing photography because I loved it. So it's kind of got me back into like doing more photography and creative stuff just for me, not necessarily for clients or from a work perspective. So
yeah.
how has it been for you? Like, how did your business change?
Oh. 2 seconds.
Yeah, go for it. Don't worry. What's that? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just recorded
it. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Don't worry.
That was Andrew coming back from work. What was I saying? Oh, yes. So things did, it kind of did change a bit. So at the beginning, I kind of thought that was it. Like, oh, no one's going to need branding, because that's kind of what I was focusing on. So I thought, oh, this is it. I'm going to have no work, like nothing. And then I think it was like May, it kind of went crazy. I think when people realised that this is kind of a good time to work on their business. So I had suddenly I had a lot of projects going on at the same time. So yeah, that was brilliant, but it was stressful. But yeah, I feel like now I'm kind of pivoting again. I'm kind of going into more social media side of stuff, and obviously my podcast takes up like most of my time. That's the thing that I'd kind of realised pretty quickly that I love doing. So yeah, kind of changed, but I think I've got off really easily. I feel like I can't complain, because I've seen so many people like having it so hard and losing everything, or even like just like yourself, like not being able to go out and do what you're used to doing. So I feel like I got away quite easy.
But there's different challenges to that too. Like, I mean, even from my perspective, like, so I think it was June maybe when I started doing doorstep shoots. I can't remember when we were actually allowed. I think it was maybe like mid to late June or early July. When that started happening. And so I had like several months of not being out shooting at all, then a few months of like being kind of able to work in little bits outside, but like very different than what I was used to. Then I had a couple of months of almost back to normal, like not the same workload, but almost being able to work kind of more how I was used to. And then we went back into this tier 4 lockdown again in Glasgow. So I guess the thing is, like, it's hard when you're not busy, and obviously it's stressful because you're worried, but then it's also hard being busy or even being semi-busy, because it's like you're constantly having to adapt what you do and how you do it. And like that in itself is exhausting.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but like obviously at the start of lockdown, a lot of people were on like furlough and stuff, and they were at home like constantly. And I kind of felt like I missed out a wee bit of that, because I was just working all the way through. Like I never got that time to just do nothing and like make banana bread and sourdough and so I don't know, there's like a weird part of like kind of mourning not getting that experience, but then being grateful that you've still got work.
I know it's like a mixed bag of emotions, and I know exactly what you mean. And we had a couple of friends who were furloughed on like full salary, didn't have like, they don't have any children or anything that they had to occupy. So basically they were sitting around like watching Netflix and drinking wine from like 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was thinking like, brilliant. Like I wish I could have even 1 or 2 weeks of that. So I totally get what you mean. It's like, no matter what situation you're in, it's like a grass is greener. You kind of wish you got a bit of the other side.
I know. Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of businesses were in that boat where their business kind of took off or like done better than they were expecting because of the situation, and it is that sort of guilt that comes with that, with doing well when everyone's struggling so much.
I know, and then you almost feel like you can't talk about it. Like it's such a, I don't know if double-edged sword is the right term. I always mix these things up, but it's really hard because it's like you're excited about whatever your accomplishments are, or if you are busy or you have a few busy weeks and you're excited to share that, but then you also don't want to make anybody who is struggling in terms of not bringing enough work or money, and you don't want to make them feel bad, and then you feel like you can't complain about being too busy because there's all these people that, you know, are just trying to get by. And it's really tough to navigate, and especially on social media, because it's like you want to be open and honest about how you're feeling, whatever kind of side of things you're on, but then you always run the risk of like making somebody else feel worse about their situation.
Yeah, and those first few weeks on social media, it just seemed like every day you were seeing bad news, and like another business that you know or you're friends with or who I'd like spoke to on the podcast was shutting down or having to close like indefinitely, and it was quite a dark time on Instagram. It was really quite depressing.
I know, and I've heard, like, this is totally not my idea. I've heard loads of people talking about how